Okay, so now that we have looked at the demonstration scenario, let's go into the actual real product. So here we see Integration Hub. So it's obviously a browser-based application, as we know. So on the home screen, we can see actually the major artifacts of it: applications, topics, publications, and subscriptions. Topics is a core concept, which is essentially the structure in which we store published data. So also remember that this is the place where we semantically properly model the data that we're interested in, such as customers, vendors, orders, shipments, what have you, products, and any kind of data set that's interesting to the organization is what we model as a topic. So the task would obviously be to create new artifacts to build out your environment. So under new, we can see that we can very easily build new applications, topics, and so on. An application would be simply a container that we can give some kind of a name, and then we can house publications and subscriptions under that container. So we can see that once we open something, we can actually see this here on the left side. So anything that we have open in a given session, we can see it there. So in this ERP application, we see that there is a publication for orders that's defined. So then there is simply a new button underneath where we can define both either publications or subscriptions. So one of the most important things, of course, would be a topic. So a topic, like I said, is the place where we can publish data into, which is semantically well defined and has high quality data, so that the subscribers can benefit from that. So defining a topic is basically an effort of providing a model, so where we can type fields in, or we rather do this by pointing to a file. So we can point to a file that has the headers and some sample data, and then it will basically give us the ability to model the data. So let's point to some kind of file here. And really, the benefit that we are deriving from this, that we just basically get the definition, so we can see that we have names for the columns, proper names, brand name, manufacturer, phone, and so on. A topic can very well consist of more than one table. Of course, think of order header, order detail, or other constructs that are related. If we prefer to present them in a multi-table topic, we have the chance to do that here. We would basically declare to the subscriber whether this topic is a delta or a full, meaning when we publish to it, are we supplying a full data set or are we supplying just changes? And we also have a retention period where obviously the Integration Hub takes care of knowing when subscribers are picking up the data, and then the retention period is basically added there, which is configurable to your needs. You just simply enter the number of days that are needed. This is all we have to do to create a topic. So we can look at some topics. For example, we have a topic about product here that is defined, where we can see how that is structured in our environment. Of course, now that we have defined a topic, we need to define something that publishes into it, which we would do under applications. So we open the application, we can explore and search all that is there. I have already some applications open. So let's just say we're in finance and we are publishing certain data sets. So we would open the finance application, which is that container that allows us to house these publications and subscriptions. We just define a new publication for this data set. We were going to publish, let's say, orders. And then here, when we open this, we can see a list of tasks. So we will come back to this very soon as we look at how to actually define those tasks. So these tasks are defined as part of the intelligent cloud services platform. So the platform has several areas. So if we can briefly click on here, data integration would be an area that we go into in just a brief moment from now to see how to define those. And there's also application integration, which we also take a quick look, because remember we talked about the event-driven type of publication. So If something is event-driven, it will be handled with application integration. For example, our example for today would be the Kafka-based publication. So if it is more of a batch, we will say that maybe we'll publish orders with this cloud task, and then here is basically a checkbox. So that would be the other case where if this is something that is event-driven of a higher frequency, there is a REST API that the Integration Hub provides, where that REST API can directly publish the data into the topic. So these are the two primary choices that you would see. Scheduling is also very easy to do, so we just simply define at which times we're actually wanting to publish this data for orders. So finance will publish orders, in this case, every 4 hours, or like any kind of schedule is possible. Or you can use this to refer to what we call an external trigger, which is really the ability to use an easy-to-use REST API. So there's a REST API to start publications or subscriptions, which can then be controlled by a more elaborate external scheduler, if that's the choice you need. So this is really all we have to do to define a publication flow. And a subscription flow is very similar. So we're back in this finance application container. We can use the new subscription feature to define a new subscription. And not surprisingly, obviously this is looks very similar, where we will be presented with a list of data integration cloud tasks that are implementing our subscriber flow, and we just choose the appropriate flow for this. And then, very similar to the previous publication discussion, we have a scheduling choice here. So we can just, for example, maybe what we'll say is we just consume this data at midnight, for example. So we just put this in as a schedule. Now, of course, having seen that we are publishing 4 times a day, we can make a decision here subsequently to say we would like to have all these publications sent to us at midnight in individual batch events, or we can pick just the latest publication if that's what we need. Or we can make it very direct, where we say as soon as something gets published, have the Integration Hub actually fire the subscription and provide the data to us. Or just like we have discussed earlier, the external trigger, meaning we have a REST API to actually launch this subscription. And then at this point we can save our new subscription. But so let's kind of transition into this list of tasks. So how does this really fit together? So we have seen this come into play both at the time that we discussed publications as well as subscriptions. So again, here is basically the launch pad for the Intelligent Cloud Services, which consists of, as we were been in the Integration Hub, the data integration area are integration jobs that can either be general purpose, or of course they can be used for support of the Integration Hub to build publications and subscriptions. There's also an application integration area, which is the kind of real-time aspect of the cloud services, used for web services, queues, and in this case also event-based streaming, with this example being Kafka for today's session. Of course, there's an administrative area, a monitoring area, and so forth. So all we really have to do is click on this or open this into a new browser tab, and we can see the different areas. So let's switch into data integration. So data integration, where we can basically see the different tasks that we have defined. So now, not surprisingly, this is the same list that we have observed where we defined publications or subscriptions. So this is actually the place where we are defining those jobs. So we can see they can be either what's called a synchronization task, which is something very simple, where we basically go into a wizard, and inside of that wizard it's just a stepwise process of defining a name, a source, a target, and then mapping this data set. So this is a publication. So in this example, the source would be a database connection, but our platform obviously can connect to over 150 different technologies. So finding a way to publish data into the integration hub is very easy to do. Then on the target side, what we will notice is that obviously for a publication we will essentially target the Cloud Integration Hub, and then what this offers us, as soon as we have picked the dedicated connection for the integration hub, the object screen will populate with the topics that are defined. So we've discussed topics just a few minutes ago. So they'll be displayed to us and also give us a quick and easy data preview. And then we have the chance to filter if we need to, and then we can either auto match these field names if that's how it works, or we can take it and drag it over to the right, and then a checkbox appears. And then we're actually already finished with this. So in the same fashion as we did this, we can also define subscribers, and subscribers, obviously it's not a surprise that subscribers will have a source for the integration hub. So the same integration hub connection object is being used in this case, but they use as a source, and it displays us obviously the logical choice of all the topics that are defined in the integration hub. And then we will actually define what is the target of the subscription. So again, this is very exciting because many different technologies can be used as part of a platform, so giving you a great ability to address any kind of situation where subscriber data needs to be delivered to a target system. And then very similarly, filtering and mapping to the field takes place, and you're done with this task. Now, there is also another batch way to define this, which is called a mapping. So a mapping is different from a synchronization task. It's giving you the ability to model your publisher or your subscriber in a fashion that lets you tap into the transformation objects. So it is a large number of transformation objects which give you greater flexibility on modeling this, in addition to the more simple type of synchronization tasks. And this is basically then makes the exact list that shows up in the integration hub itself when we're defining a publication or a subscription. So remembering that this is a comprehensive platform, right? We talked about this. We have data integration, but we also have application integration. So we can click on that and open this. So this is what a flow in application integration would look like. So this is basically the flow that we're using for our Kafka example. So Kafka is a system that is event-based and streaming-based, and we're using this here for a higher frequency event-based publication. So this will take data from a Kafka broker, use Informatica application integration, which is part of our intelligent cloud services, and then look at this data as it comes from the Kafka broker, do some validations with that to make sure that some of the values that are in the data payload are correct, and then if those are correct, it will get published to the integration hub, or otherwise it will be routed to an error queue. So this is a different mechanism of publishing data. So remembering that when we were in the wizard to create publications, we have the choice of data integration tasks such as sync tasks or mapping tasks, or we can publish with an API. So an API would be basically what is leveraged at the point in time that we are contacting the integration hub as we're reading from this flow from Kafka. So going back to the hub itself, so we have spent some time now to look at the major artifacts that define our integration hub, such as applications publishing, topics, and then subscribers going into the subscribing application. So this was all about the modeling. But there's also an operational aspect to the integration hub. So for us to look at that, we have basically the centralized event view. So this shows us everything that is happening in our integration hub, whether those are data integration type publisher subscriber flows, or whether they are based on application integration. So I'm going to go ahead and use the command line that or the REST API that we talked about. So this was kind of under our external scheduling. So I'm gonna launch with my command line here. I'm gonna make these REST API calls. So what we can see then when we go back into Integration Hub is that some brand new events will be actually launched. So that basically launched my opportunity orders and products publishers, which I have just used that command line for. And then we can also see a whole bunch of other things are going on. Events we can see that they're either running, that could be completed, they could error out, as we can see here, which allows us to investigate those errors, or they can be in a delayed state. So having talked about the event-based higher frequency publishing, so there is a publishing going on that we can see across this entire page. So the Kafka-based example is running also and giving events to the Integration Hub, which are taken care of by the application integration component of the cloud system, where we have that flow, that process flow that listens to Kafka. So all these different interactions are taking place here, and basically in the background we have this program, which in our example is this point of sale system. It will every 2 minutes it will then here produce a message to the Kafka broker. So that message is on the broker, and we have also looked at the application integration flow. So this flow will be always on, listening to the Kafka broker, and if the criteria are met, then the data is published into the Integration Hub via the REST API method. So we're seeing all these events are taking place. We'll refresh something here, and then we can kind of see some interesting things where if we open something up, so we can see this turn blue. So the top line is basically our publisher. So the Integration Hub organizes these things very nicely for us, so we can see the dependencies and we can see what is happening. So we can actually see something is still being written here, something is delayed. So for this particular consumer, we have set it up to be more infrequently. So the sales data mart will not consume data immediately. So I can also actually just go in there and I can just launch this from here, and then we can go back into the event screen itself, and we should be able to see that the data is now actually running. So it's gonna be consuming this data as we speak here, and then if there are no errors, then the event will go into the completed state. So looking at our overview, obviously there are many of these consuming systems that are subscribers. So we can take a brief look into Amazon S3, where we can see that the newest subscriber data was just dropped off. If we can pay attention to the system timestamp here, or we're also using basically Azure SQL Data Warehouse, which is currently up and running. And if we take a look at our tables there, we have fresh data that was delivered to the Azure SQL Data Warehouse subscriber according to our landscape. So going back to the hub itself, as we discussed, we have publishing flows. We can open those. We can see the child subscriber flows. We have a variety of outcomes that can take place. We can always see if something has gone wrong, or if everything is going well, and if this is another delayed event. So I can always go into an event, get the actual processing information for the event that gives me some more of the details of the number of rows, the kind of date range that is part of that subscriber. Or I can actually launch into the actual session log. If it's completed, of course, I can launch into the actual session log of an event. If I need to investigate things a little bit deeper, it gives me the session log detail itself. So another thing that that could happen that we may need to do is we also have the ability to reprocess something. So when something occurs as an error status, we can fix the error, and then we can go here from the event screen itself. We can actually launch reprocessing this event without affecting any other subscriber. So it gives us a great level of control. Okay, so let's summarize what we have seen. So we have definitely seen all the major artifacts inside of the Integration Hub. Topics where we model the high value data, and we publish to it and we subscribe from it. We have shown you a great variety of different applications, looking kind of at our scenario again, where we have built basically publishers from a variety of systems, on-premises, cloud, as well as event-based streaming, which is kind of a new capability for this year, where we have shown you the ongoing Kafka example that publishes in uses application integration, and then we have a nice variety of typical subscribers such as data warehouse, data mart, cloud storage system, cloud data warehouse systems, and so on, to show you a nice relevant demo. So with that, thank you very much.